What is happening to me?
Did you miss me, Spidey? I'm losing my mind.
Sony just wrapped up their CinemaCon presentation by showing the first big chunk of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And of course, because this is the internet, there's already a fan movement brewing, with people demanding Jon Bernthal's Punisher get his own solo movie after this one drops. Normally, when something like this happens, especially with a movie this massive, the internet goes into complete overdrive within minutes. People who were in the room started posting their hot takes. Someone tries to take a blurry clip, another person uploads shaky audio from their phone, and a bunch of comments start spreading across social media almost instantly. That's just how these events usually play out. But this time, almost nothing happened. It's a strange situation because after digging through social media and all the usual spots where leaks and reactions pop up, there was basically nothing worth talking about. No first-hand reactions, no audience quotes, no leaked descriptions from people claiming they were in the room. The only posts floating around were copies of the same original news articles confirming that Sony showed the footage. None of them added any new information about what people actually thought after watching it. The footage was definitely shown, that part has already been confirmed, but the weird part is that nobody who actually saw those first 18 minutes seems interested in talking about it. Usually that's impossible, because even behind closed doors, someone always says something. This time, it's just complete silence. So the obvious question becomes, why? And there's another question hanging over all of this because Spider-Man Brand New Day is rumored to include a bunch of important Marvel characters. If that's true, then how many of those same characters are also going to appear in Avengers Doomsday? That connection is something fans are paying close attention to, and the lack of info only fuels the speculation. Somebody suddenly appears online claiming they attended the screening and starts describing what they saw. But it probably won't happen. The presentation took place in Barcelona the previous night, so because of the time difference, it had already been hours since the event ended. By the time people in the US were awake, anyone who wanted to post something could have already done it. Instead, there was nothing. No reactions across social media, no entertainment websites publishing audience impressions, no journalists sharing quotes, no editorials discussing the footage, just silence. There's actually a pretty simple reason for that once you understand what CinemaCon really is. The event isn't designed for movie fans, it isn't built around influencers, and it isn't packed with YouTubers chasing exclusive content. Most people barely even knew Sony was planning to show the opening there because it wasn't one of those heavily advertised presentations where everyone circles the date on the calendar waiting for surprises. Sony simply showed the footage to the people who were supposed to see it. Marvel has done similar things before. For example, Deadpool and Wolverine also had roughly its first 20 minutes shown during industry presentations before release. That's not unusual. Studios have used these events for years. The important thing isn't that they showed footage, but what kind of footage they decided to show. Before getting into that, though, it's worth understanding who was actually sitting in that audience. CinemaCon is mainly an industry event, so the people attending are theater owners, exhibitors, distributors, and professionals whose jobs revolve around getting movies into cinemas across Europe. These aren't people trying to build social media followings or race each other to post spoilers online. They're there because movies are their business. They want to know what studios are releasing over the coming months because those films affect ticket sales, scheduling, promotions, and ultimately, revenue. Of course, they probably had opinions after watching the footage, because everybody does, but those opinions usually stay inside business conversations instead of becoming viral tweets. They're focused on whether audiences will buy tickets, whether theaters should prepare for strong attendance, and whether the movie looks like another box office success. That's a completely different mindset from someone attending a fan convention hoping to break the internet with exclusive information. So even though plenty of people watched those first 18 minutes, nobody had much reason to run online talking about them. There also weren't many entertainment reporters covering the event, there weren't content creators filling live streams, and there weren't influencers recording reaction videos 5 minutes later. That crowd simply wasn't there. The audience consisted mostly of professionals who wanted an early preview of upcoming releases so they could better prepare their businesses, and that's why everything stayed quiet. It's actually interesting because this is how CinemaCon in the US originally operated too. Years ago, it was mainly an industry gathering where theater owners and distributors attended to learn about future releases and make business decisions. But things changed. As YouTubers, entertainment websites, and social media creators realized they could attend and get early looks at highly anticipated movies, the event slowly evolved. Suddenly, first reactions became part of the marketing cycle, coverage exploded, and studios recognized that those online conversations created free publicity. So CinemaCon adapted, and now it's much more connected to online media than it used to be. Cine Europe hasn't really gone through that same transformation, though. It's still a much smaller, business-focused event, so expecting immediate fan reactions from it doesn't really make sense. That's why there's basically nothing online. And considering the movie is only about a month away from release, Sony probably isn't going to organize another screening of the same 18-minute opening for a different audience anytime soon. Even though there aren't audience reactions to analyze, the presentation itself still tells us something important. Actually, it tells us two things. First, Sony clearly has confidence in the movie. Studios don't randomly show the opening 18 minutes of a blockbuster unless they believe those scenes make a strong first impression. They had countless other options. They could have shown another trailer, put together a highlight reel, picked one exciting action sequence from later in the film, or shown a conversation between Spider-Man and Punisher if they wanted people talking. Instead, they showed the beginning, and that decision matters. The opening of a movie is a difficult job because it has to introduce the story, establish the tone, reconnect audiences with the characters, and make people excited enough to stay invested for the next 2 hours. If Sony was comfortable showing that entire opening without chopping it into promotional clips, that's usually a sign they believe it works extremely well. The second thing this suggests is that those opening 18 minutes contain enough interesting material to hook viewers immediately. That's important, because first impressions matter. If nothing exciting happened early in the film, showing that section at Cine Europe would have been a terrible marketing decision. Instead, Sony apparently felt confident enough to let industry professionals experience the movie exactly as it begins, and that's generally considered a positive sign. Marvel has followed this approach before. When they screened the opening of Deadpool and Wolverine ahead of release, it reflected confidence in what they had made. They weren't trying to hide anything or distract people with carefully selected scenes. They believed the opening sold the movie by itself, and Sony seems to be taking the same approach here. That said, Jon Bernthal's version of the Punisher is finally making his MCU movie debut in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it has taken almost a decade to get here. That's surprising because previous live-action Punishers all received solo movies, while Bernthal's widely praised take remained limited to television. Since the MCU has mostly avoided R-rated films outside of Deadpool and Wolverine, the character has spent most of his time on the small screen. In Brand New Day, fans should expect a slightly toned-down Punisher. As a PG-13 film, Frank Castle won't be as brutal or foul-mouthed as he was in the Netflix series. Instead, the movie appears to pair him with Peter Parker in a buddy cop-style dynamic, mixing action with humor as the two reluctant allies face Spider-Man's newest enemies. Bernthal has proven he can balance intense drama with comedy, making this team-up feel like a natural fit. It also has comic book history behind it, since the Punisher first appeared in a Spider-Man comic. Even so, many fans believe this movie should only be the beginning. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.